Breaking news out of the automotive world. General Motors is facing growing backlash over what many are calling their unproven truck lineup in 2025, and it's sparking a serious debate among truck buyers. These trucks were marketed as the future of GM's dominance, promising cutting-edge electric platforms, bold redesigns, and features that would supposedly leave Ford and Ram scrambling. But here we are just a year or two after launch, and the question is being asked everywhere. Are buyers already regretting their decision? The signs are piling up that GM may have overpromised and underdelivered, and the truck faithful who once lined up to secure their orders are now voicing some very real concerns. One of the biggest issues coming out of early ownership reports is reliability, or rather, the lack of it. GM rushed to roll out several new models, especially in the electric truck segment, trying to beat Tesla's Cybertruck and Ford's F-150 Lightning to the punch. But in the rush to be first, buyers are now reporting technical glitches, software bugs, and even drivetrain problems that have left some trucks stranded. Complaints are spreading fast on owner forums and social media, with some saying their expensive purchase feels more like an experiment than a finished product. And that raises the question, did GM gamble too much on being flashy instead of being tested and proven like truck buyers expect? Another major sticking point is pricing. GM bragged about affordability, but when the trucks actually hit dealerships, the numbers told a very different story. Sticker shock set in as models that were advertised as attainable quickly ballooned past $60,000 and even $70,000 with just a few add-ons. Many buyers assumed that EVs would save them money in the long run, but with charging infrastructure still lagging in many parts of the US, especially rural areas where trucks dominate, owners are finding themselves frustrated by the lack of practicality. It's not just about having the latest tech anymore. These trucks were supposed to work hard, tow, and travel long distances. Instead, many are learning the hard way that promises of range and capability haven't fully translated into real-world performance. And then there's the elephant in the room, brand loyalty. GM has built decades of trust with Silverado and Sierra owners, people who passed down these trucks through generations, expecting rugged durability. But this new wave of trucks feels like a gamble that's alienating the traditional base. Some longtime owners say the trucks look flashy, but don't feel like the dependable workhorses they once knew. Meanwhile, rivals like Ford and Toyota are quietly doubling down on hybrids and proven gasoline models while slowly introducing EVs, which makes GM's all-in strategy look even riskier. Are they betting on the future at the cost of their loyal core? But the backlash isn't just emotional, it's financial too. Resale values on some of GM's newest trucks are already dropping faster than expected, a nightmare for buyers who assumed they were investing in a long-lasting truck that would hold value. Reports are coming in that some dealers are seeing near-new GM trucks sitting on lots as trade-ins, with owners saying they simply can't deal with the problems anymore. This is sending shockwaves through the market because if trucks can't hold their value, it undermines one of the biggest reasons people invest in them in the first place. Take the Silverado EV, for example. GM hyped this truck as the ultimate game changer, claiming it would deliver over 400 miles of range, lightning-fast charging, and revolutionary storage solutions like the Midgate system. On paper, it sounded unbeatable. But in reality, many owners are reporting nowhere near those range numbers, especially when towing even modest loads. Imagine buying a truck that was advertised as your long-haul solution, only to discover that once you hook up a trailer, your range is cut in half or worse. These kinds of disappointments sting extra hard when you've paid top dollar for what you thought was the future of trucks. Some Silverado EV owners are calling it a bait-and-switch, saying GM used impressive specs to sell the dream, but the execution just isn't living up to the hype. Then there's the GMC Sierra EV Denali, which was supposed to be the premium luxury option in GM's electric truck lineup. While it delivers on interior luxury with plush seating, massive infotainment screens, and high-tech features, it's struggling with the same core issues: range anxiety, charging delays, and even early quality control complaints. One Sierra EV owner described their experience as owning a luxury truck that can't always do truck things, pointing to towing frustrations and limited charging options on road trips. For customers spending $80,000 or more, those kinds of limitations feel unacceptable. And once word spreads that a so-called luxury truck can't meet basic utility needs, it creates a ripple effect of doubt across the brand. On the other hand, let's talk about GM's attempt to win over the budget-conscious crowd with stripped-down EV work trucks. These were supposed to be the trucks for fleets, contractors, and everyday buyers who needed reliability and cost efficiency. But here, too, cracks are showing. Fleet operators in particular are complaining that downtime, due to charging or unexpected maintenance costs, are eating into profits. Many say they would rather stick with proven gasoline or hybrid models that can run all day and refuel in minutes. That's a huge red flag because if GM can't convince fleets, the backbone of truck sales, then the entire strategy starts to look shaky. Meanwhile, competitors are circling, Ford has managed to keep F-150 Lightning buyers relatively happy with steady software updates and more transparent range numbers, while Toyota is winning fans with the hybrid Tacoma and Tundra, striking a balance between efficiency and proven dependability. Even Ram, which was late to the EV game, is now looking smart because they took extra time to refine their electric truck before pushing it out. That leaves GM looking like the brand that rushed to the party, and unfortunately, their buyers are the ones paying the price. But what's making this story even more explosive is how it's starting to impact GM's reputation in broader markets. Truck buyers are famously vocal, and when they feel burned, they don't hold back. Social media platforms are filling with videos of frustrated owners showcasing their trucks failing on long trips or showing range drops under heavy loads. Some have even started online campaigns warning potential buyers to wait until GM gets its act together. That's not just bad press. It's a full-blown credibility crisis that threatens to undo years of brand loyalty. Dealerships, the frontline soldiers of GM's truck business, are starting to feel the squeeze. Reports are surfacing that many lots across the country are filling up with unsold Silverado EVs and Sierra EVs, while used models with just a few thousand miles are being traded back in at shocking depreciation rates. Some dealers are slashing prices with incentives and cashback offers just to move inventory, something that would have been unthinkable a few years ago when new trucks were selling at premiums over sticker price. It's a complete reversal of the market dynamic that GM enjoyed during the height of the truck boom, and it's raising alarms about just how sustainable their strategy really is. Sales staff themselves are caught in a difficult position. On one hand, they're under pressure from GM to push these next-gen trucks, but on the other hand, they're facing hesitant customers who've either heard horror stories online or know someone personally who's had a bad experience. Many dealerships are quietly admitting that they're leaning on tried-and-true gas-powered Silverados and Sierras to keep the lights on, even though GM Corporate wants to showcase the EVs. That disconnect between the factory and the showroom is creating friction, and it's starting to show in customer confidence. What's even more telling is how trade-in dynamics are shifting. A Silverado or Sierra used to be one of the safest bets when it came to resale value, but now dealers are reporting steep drops, with some EV models losing tens of thousands of dollars in value within the first year. Buyers who thought they were making a smart long-term investment are suddenly underwater on their loans, and that creates not just personal frustration but long-term damage to GM's reputation. No truck owner wants to feel like their prized possession has turned into a financial liability overnight. At the same time, competitors are using GM's missteps as marketing ammunition. Ford dealers are openly highlighting Lightning's reliability compared to GM's experimental EVs, while Toyota is pitching its hybrids as the smarter, more dependable alternative for everyday drivers and work crews. Even smaller brands like Rivian are capitalizing on the perception that they've created a more refined, tested electric truck than GM, despite having a fraction of the resources. That kind of competitive positioning only deepens GM's challenge, because once buyers start shifting their trust, it's incredibly difficult to win them back. And the financial markets are noticing too. Analysts are pointing out that GM's massive EV investments aren't generating the kind of returns Wall Street expected, especially in the truck division. Weak demand combined with heavy discounting is squeezing profit margins, and some are even warning that GM may have to scale back production targets if this trend continues. For an automaker that staked its future on electrification, the idea of cutting back EV output is more than just embarrassing. It could signal to investors that the entire strategy is in jeopardy. The most painful part of this entire situation for GM is the reaction from its most loyal base. Longtime Silverado and Sierra owners who, for decades, swore by GM trucks. These are the buyers who stuck with the brand through ups and downs, through recalls, redesigns, and even economic downturns. But now, many of them are voicing a new emotion that GM has rarely faced at this scale: regret. Online forums are full of comments from buyers who admit they feel like beta testers for trucks that weren't ready for prime time. Some are even saying they wish they had kept their older gas or diesel models instead of trading them in for what was promised as the future. Stories are emerging of owners who invested $70,000 or more into these new trucks, only to face breakdowns range issues, and resale nightmares. One Silverado EV owner recently shared how towing a medium-sized camper forced them to stop 5 times in a single day just to recharge, a trip that would have required just 1 or 2 fuel stops in their old gas-powered Silverado. Another Sierra EV customer said they had to wait weeks for parts after a software-related issue sidelined their truck, leaving them with no work vehicle during that time. For hard-working truck owners, these aren't just inconveniences, they're deal breakers. And social media has turned these individual frustrations into viral moments. Videos of stranded trucks, slow charging sessions, and real-world range tests are gaining millions of views on TikTok and YouTube. What's worse for GM is that many of these videos come from loyal customers, not rival fanboys, which makes the criticism hit harder. When a Ford or Ram owner criticizes GM, that's expected. But when a die-hard Chevy guy goes viral saying he regrets his new truck, that creates a credibility crisis that no amount of advertising can fix. The sense of betrayal is spreading, and it's pushing some buyers to consider competitors they never would have looked at before. Toyota's hybrids are looking attractive to those who want efficiency without range anxiety. Ford's Lightning is being seen as the safer bet in the EV space. And even Ram's delayed EV release is now being framed as a smart move because it avoided the pitfalls GM is facing. For GM, losing even a fraction of its loyal base to competitors is dangerous, because once a customer makes that switch, history shows they rarely come back. Meanwhile, in truck communities across America, from small towns to job sites, the conversation has shifted. GM trucks used to be a badge of pride, a symbol of toughness and dependability. Now they're becoming punchlines in some circles, with jokes about being stuck at charging stations or breaking down under pressure. That shift in perception, subtle but growing, is something that could haunt GM long after the technical issues are solved, because reputation, once tarnished, is hard to repair. Looking ahead, the fallout from these unproven trucks is already creating doubts about GM's next wave of launches in 2026 and beyond. GM had big plans to expand its electric truck lineup with more affordable trims, fleet-focused variants, and even performance models that were supposed to showcase what EV trucks could do. But with the growing backlash and hesitation from current owners, the buzz around those future launches is turning into skepticism. Instead of customers lining up with deposits months in advance, many are saying they'll sit back, wait, and see if GM can actually deliver a truck that performs as promised. That shift in buyer psychology is dangerous. It slows momentum and gives competitors valuable breathing room to catch up or even overtake. The Silverado EV RST, the supposed halo truck meant to redefine the segment, was supposed to set the tone for GM's future. Instead, its struggles are acting like a warning sign for upcoming models. Potential buyers are looking at the reports of software glitches, inflated pricing, and rapid depreciation and asking, why should I take that risk again? That hesitation isn't just a short-term sales problem. It threatens to undermine GM's entire EV roadmap. Trucks are the backbone of GM's profits, and if the company can't convince its most loyal customers to buy into electrification, it risks losing both revenue and relevance in the most critical segment of the American auto market. Meanwhile, suppliers and industry insiders are also taking notice. Some suppliers tied to GM's Ultium battery platform are quietly concerned that slower-than-expected truck sales could mean reduced orders, putting strain on production plans. And in the wider industry, competitors are seizing the opportunity to frame GM's missteps as proof that their more cautious approach is the smarter path. Ford can now say, "Look, we didn't rush, we're refining." Toyota can point to hybrids as a bridge that works today while still preparing for tomorrow. Even Ram, which was late to the EV party, is suddenly looking like the disciplined player in the room by delaying its rollout until the tech is more stable. What's especially troubling for GM is the potential long-term erosion of trust. Truck buyers don't just purchase a vehicle, they buy into an identity, a brand, and a legacy. And when that trust is broken, it has ripple effects across multiple generations. Younger buyers who see their parents or relatives frustrated with a GM truck today may choose a Ford, Toyota, or Ram tomorrow. That kind of generational shift can reshape market share for decades, and it's why automakers guard their reputations so fiercely. GM may have underestimated how deeply this backlash could cut. And while GM executives continue to insist that these hiccups are just part of the transition to a new era, the reality on the ground tells a different story. Buyers don't want excuses, they want solutions. They don't want to hear about future updates or fixes when their current truck is leaving them stranded or costing them money. If GM can't quickly restore confidence in its trucks, the damage could carry over to every new model it tries to launch, creating a cycle of doubt that no flashy ad campaign can undo. Wall Street is already sounding alarms about GM's truck situation, and the ripple effects are being felt across the company. Investors poured billions into GM stock and into its long-term electrification promises, believing that the Silverado EV and Sierra EV would be the crown jewels of the Ultium platform. But as reality sets in, slow sales, high discounts, and unhappy buyers, those same investors are starting to lose patience. Analysts on recent earnings calls have grilled GM executives about missed targets and ballooning costs. And while leadership insists that everything is on track, the numbers tell another story. Profit margins are shrinking, inventory is piling up, and the core truck segment that once carried the company is now being questioned as a weak link. For GM's leadership, the stakes could not be higher. Mary Barra and her executive team staked their reputations on going all in with EVs, especially trucks, presenting it as the bold vision that would secure GM's dominance in the 2020s and beyond. But when those flagship products stumble, it doesn't just bruise the brand, it calls into question the entire strategy. Insiders are whispering that the pressure inside GM's boardrooms has reached a boiling point, with some factions pushing to double down on electrification and others urging a pivot back toward hybrids and proven gas-powered options to stabilize sales. That kind of division at the top only adds to the uncertainty. And it's not just investors watching closely. Employees across GM are feeling the heat too. Engineers and plant workers are facing the brunt of the frustration when rushed products turn into warranty claims and recalls. Dealership staff, as we mentioned earlier, are caught in the awkward position of trying to sell trucks customers don't fully trust. Morale is starting to wobble, with some employees worried that if sales don't pick up, GM may cut production shifts or delay promised expansions. That's a dangerous place for any company to be in, because once doubt starts to spread internally, it can ripple outward into the customer experience. Meanwhile, GM's competition is thriving off this turmoil. Ford and Toyota executives are using GM's struggles as leverage in their own investor calls, showing off how their more measured strategies are paying off. Ford, for instance, has been able to point to steady Lightning demand and strong hybrid sales as proof of balance, while Toyota emphasizes its discipline in not overpromising on EV timelines. Each time GM takes a hit in credibility, its rivals gain more breathing room to strengthen their positions. And Wall Street notices. That's why some analysts are warning that if GM doesn't stabilize quickly, it could lose not only consumer confidence, but also critical investor confidence that fuels future innovation. And then there's the looming shadow of global competition. While GM struggles to defend its turf in the US, Chinese automakers like BYD are preparing to flood international markets with affordable EV trucks that are already proven in their home country. If GM continues stumbling, it risks not only losing ground to Ford, Toyota, and Ram, but also leaving the door wide open for foreign competition to carve into a segment that has historically been GM's most profitable. That's not just a financial risk, that's an existential one. As if unhappy buyers and nervous investors weren't enough, government regulators are also tightening the screws on GM's truck program. Washington has been pouring billions into EV incentives, infrastructure, and manufacturing subsidies, and GM was one of the loudest voices promising to deliver results in return. But now, with sales underwhelming and owners reporting real-world problems, policymakers are beginning to ask uncomfortable questions. Lawmakers who backed EV subsidies are under pressure from their constituents to explain why taxpayer dollars are supporting vehicles that many buyers feel are half-baked. That scrutiny puts GM directly in the political crosshairs. At the same time, regulators are holding automakers accountable for emissions goals, and GM's all-in EV strategy was supposed to be its ticket to compliance. But if buyers aren't flocking to EV trucks the way GM projected, those targets become harder to hit. Falling short could expose GM to penalties or force it to purchase credits from competitors like Tesla, which would be a humiliating and costly blow. Worse yet, it risks damaging GM's carefully cultivated image as the legacy automaker leading the EV revolution. The pressure is also being felt at the state level. California, for example, has some of the strictest EV adoption mandates in the country, and GM has been banking on that market to help boost truck sales.